Live from KEZI 9 News, this is College Football Game Night.
I'm not joking when I tell you the power went out at the station today for about 2 hours. And so we have duct taped and kind of used zip ties to put a show together. But we're going to have a show.
I'm happy about that. I'm also happy I wasn't here for when the power went out.
It's the last show of the year.
Yeah, last Saturday show.
The last scheduled show, I'll
say,
for College Game Night. Kenny Koberstein, Cameron Derby with you as always. Kenny, Oregon State last night, real quick, just an instant reaction, a resounding win for the Oregon Ducks at Autzen Stadium the last time that they played. Yeah,
proof of concept for Oregon. I mean, just a really, one of their more dominating wins I can remember in a series like that. Oregon State's a really good football team, and Oregon just kind of had the clamps on it from the beginning.
An umbrella of distraction kind of started to cloud over Corvallis and seeping into the Eugene area throughout the day. Those rumors started midweek. Reports of Jonathan Smith being the top target at Michigan State. In the middle of the week, Smith went on John Canzano's Bald-Faced Truth and said that he was not trying to be sarcastic. He just wanted to be truthful. He does have an agent that has a job. That job is to look and see what's out there. As the game approached on Friday, more reports broke that he was the top target at Michigan State. Oregon State would go on to lose to Oregon 31-7 in the post-game press conference. Smith was asked about his future. He said this.
And no decisions have been made. I asked this team to take an approach. We're locked in on 4 months, and that was a little bit the start conversation with so much uncertainty. Pac-2, where it's taking place, I've taken the same approach. So decisions, time, and all of that have been locked in for the last 4 months, and we'll go from there. Don't know. To be determined. Don't know.
We all woke up this morning to see this. Michigan State announcing Jonathan Smith as its newest head coach, ending his 6-year tenure as the Beavs head coach. Smith went 34-35 in 6 seasons with Oregon State, but 18-7 since the start of 2022. He won the Pac-12 Co-Coach of the Year last season as Oregon State finished at number 17 in the country and a win in the Las Vegas Bowl. Jonathan Smith posted a short statement to his Twitter, and this right here is pulled right from Twitter. You can see it says, "As I start the next chapter of my coaching career, I want to first thank all the players, coaches, and colleagues that I have worked with for the last 6 years. I will cherish the memories and friendships." He also said, "I want to express my deepest gratitude to the people of OSU Corvallis for your support. When I first arrived as a freshman college student, I had no idea the opportunities and relationships this community would provide for me and my family. The collective impact you've made makes it impossible for me to thank everyone individually, but I am forever grateful." An instant reaction began to happen around the area. The players started reacting around the team. Some responses coming up on your screen. There were emotions. The big one, Damian Martinez, wasn't active much on X today, but he is being reported to be staying at Oregon State next season through the Smith departure. We have not confirmed that ourselves. We want to mention that. But Oregon State named Kefense Hinson the interim head coach a little while later. He's been the wide receiver passing game coordinator since 2018. He's been an offensive coordinator at the collegiate level before. Oregon State did announce that it is on an immediate search nationally for a new head coach. All right, Kenny, a lot to take in right there. Jonathan Smith is no longer the head coach at Oregon State. That's the big thing right here. So kind of take me through your first thoughts here as Jonathan Smith leaves.
Yeah, always messy. I think the first thoughts that jump to my head are, there's never a good time for this, but I think especially this one probably stings for Oregon State fans. Coach Smith, obviously an alumnus there and a really beloved character in the history of that program. On top of that, you've kind of got to wonder where Oregon State goes from here a little bit. What is their next move, especially with the transfer portal being a thing and trying to hold this roster together. But at the end of the day, I think Jonathan Smith did an incredible job at Oregon State, and I kind of can't blame him for making this move right now.
So obviously, Jonathan Smith left a very impactful legacy at Oregon State. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, but I think for the Oregon State fan base, the biggest question looming right now, the reality is set in. by tonight. Jonathan Smith is gone. He is the head coach at Michigan State. You mentioned yourself, what are the next steps? What are maybe the candidates, maybe some of the early candidates in your mind for Oregon State?
You know, I think the two most obvious ones are Brent Brennan at San Jose State, former Oregon State receivers coach under Mike Riley. He's got personnel bona fides. When he took over San Jose State, that roster was a complete disaster and one of the worst FBS football programs in the country. They're perennially bowling, I think 3 years in a row now. He's done a really great job there, and I think he'd be thrilled to have this job. I think the other one is Oregon State alumnus, former assistant coach Bronco Mendenhall. Mendenhall has done he's done a lot more with less throughout his career. I think what he did and was trying to do at Virginia was really innovative. You know, they don't have kind of the same recruiting footprint that teams of that size usually have. And he was really kind of thinking outside the box, doing some different things. And since they've let him go, that program's kind of backslid a little bit. I think those are probably the two obvious names right now.
We're not going to delve too far into the when did this start to happen. There's just so much speculation around it and little facts that we can confirm with it. But with Jonathan Smith gone, I think it's important to look back and see how important Jonathan Smith was to the city of Corvallis, not only as a quarterback for Oregon State, but as a head coach for the program. Stuck through some very hard beginning years. Bona fide program builder going over to Michigan State. He took this team from something that was down in the 3-win category when he comes into the program, and as he leaves, they're nationally relevant with 2 games on national TV to end the season, a top 10 team in the college football playoff rankings at one point. Leaps and bounds what Jonathan Smith did for Oregon State.
He's a tremendous coach. I mean, Michigan State's getting a great football coach, a great leader. You know, I got to interact with Jonathan a few times just through the clinic circuit and things like that, and just one of the more thoughtful, diligent coaches that I've had a chance to be around. He's a very calculated and measured man, and so I don't think this decision was probably made lightly in any sense of the word. And what he did at Oregon State, like you said, you know, taking over those first couple of years where that roster was in really bad shape, and to turn it over slowly over time, making Oregon State an attractive place to be. They currently have a top 50 recruiting class in the country. They have attracted top transfers like DJ Uiagalelei, and it's just a night and day where they were from when he started.
Before we jump out to break and kind of talk about the Oregon State game a little more, maybe just give the folks at home a little bit of insight that maybe not be as knowledgeable on what the process looks like from here on out, because college football has changed in the last 6 years. You lose a head coach. Kind of just maybe dig into the process a little bit of what it could look like for Oregon State in the coming weeks leading up to a bowl game.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to kind of see what timeline they're on. I imagine they want this done fairly quickly because, again, they have a top 50 recruiting class that they're going to try to hold on to, and the transfer portal is a very real thing. They do not want a mass exodus. I think that's probably Coach Hinson's #1 job as the interim, is to try to hold this roster and hold this recruiting class together. And then from there, you're just going to kind of start to see the little whispers on Twitter, right? Nobody ever interviews for a job unless they accepted that job, which is, that's just not true. It's a very murky and kind of back-channeled situation, right? Smith wasn't lying when he says, I have an agent who is doing a job. All of these guys do, and you're going to see a lot of names kind of thrown around for this job. You're going to see a lot of people who want to raise get their name thrown around for this job, and so it's going to be interesting how it goes, but I do think they'll want to go quick.
It's just kind of looking back and reflecting on the day. It's just been wild to think about how fast this season went from a very good season for Oregon State to kind of off the cliff here in the last couple weeks. But there is still a bowl game to be played, and there's still a game to reflect on from last night.